Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Taxo Online and Taxo Buddy, I extend a very warm welcome to each one of you. Thank you for taking time and join us today's webinar. So, it is now my privilege to invite Mr. Manoj Kapoor sir, CEO of Taxo Online and Taxo Buddy, to deliver the welcome address and officially begin today's session. Sir, please welcome.
थैंक यू काजल एंड थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स। ड्राफ्ट मोड हमने आपके लिए डाला हुआ है अपलोड करने के लिए। ड्राफ्ट इज टेकिंग लिटिल बिट टाइम, तो उसमें थोड़ा सा समय लग रहा है। तो ये ड्राफ्ट भी बन के आ गया, पर ड्राफ्ट से पहले ना मैं आपको जो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन मैं आपको दोबारा से रिपीट करूंगा जी। मैंने आपको taxobuddy.ai के बारे में बताया। मैंने जी पहला क्वेश्चन अपना डाला था, मैंने एक सिंपल क्वेश्चन डाला था अपना इसमें जो क्वेरी मोड में, व्हाट इज द जीएसटी रेट ऑफ द वेलनेस सर्विसेज, जो जस्ट अभी आपका डाला। तो इसने बकायदा आपको पूरा का पूरा बताया जीएसटी रेट्स ऑन द वेलनेस सर्विसेज एज ऑन डेट क्या है, एज ऑन डेट यानी कि टुडे इज व्हाट इज द रेट। बकायदा उसने आपको एसएक कोड बताया, उसके रेट्स बताए आपको कि किस डिस्क्रिप्शन में है, क्या सीजीएसटी है, एचजीएसटी है, आईजीएसटी है, सेस है, आईटीसी है। इफेक्टिव डेट बताई कि 22 सितंबर 2025 से एप्लीकेबल है। उसका नोटिफिकेशन आपको बताया कि 15/2025 से यूज किया है, विदाउट आईटीसी क्या है, विद आईटीसी क्या है। बाकायदा पूरा का पूरा आपको उन्होंने सारा का सारा डिटेल आपको निकाल के दिया। साथ में क्लोजिंग समरी में आपने को ये भी बताया, और साथ में रेफरेंसेस में आपको पूरे के पूरे इसके रेफरेंसेस भी मिलते हैं कि कहां कहां से इसने इस चीज को रेफर किया। तो आपकी कोई भी कंसल्टेंसी है, कोई भी आपको ओपिनियन देनी है, तो यू गेट द आंसर। आपको यहाँ आंसर मिलते हैं। आप इसको कॉपी करना चाहें कॉपी कर सकते हैं, डाउनलोड टेक्स्ट में कीजिए, पीडीएफ में कीजिए, कर सकते हैं। शेयर करना चाहते हैं शेयर कर सकते हैं, मेल करना चाह सकते हैं मेल कर सकते हैं। और इफ यू आर सेटिस्फाइड विद द योर आंसर, आप इसको रेट करके रिस्पॉन्स भी करते हैं, और रिफ्रेश करने का ऑप्शन तो रहता ही है। सेकंड, मैंने जो किया था क्वेश्चन, मैंने एक एससीएन को इसमें अपना एससीएन को अपलोड किया था। तो जैसा कि उस एससीएन का मैंने बताया, एससीएन को अपलोड किया तो सबसे पहले उसने डॉक्यूमेंट का समराइजेशन दिया कि दिस इज द क्रक्स ऑफ द होल मैटर। फिर उस मैटर में से एक्सट्रैक्ट द इश्यूज, उसने इश्यूज निकाले। फिर देन बी द नोन फैक्ट्स, और उन नोन फैक्ट्स में से कितने सेटल्ड हैं, कितने क्लोज मैटर हैं, की बैकग्राउंड ऑफ द फैक्ट्स निकाल के सब कुछ आपको उसने दिया। और फिर देन आपसे उसे रिव्यू करने के लिए पूछा कि आपको कोई फीडबैक है, कोई करेक्शन है, कुछ भी आप दीजिए। जो भी आप फीडबैक करेक्शंस देंगे वो इसको इनकॉर्पोरेट करेगा। तो अगेन मेरी कोई फीडबैक मैं नहीं देना चाहता, तो आई एम सेइंग दैट प्लीज। तो मैं इसको फाइनल ड्राफ्ट बनाने के लिए बोल रहा हूं। तो ये हमें बिल्कुल फाइनल ड्राफ्ट आपको इस तरह से बना के देगा जिस तरह से आप कोर्ट में जाते हैं प्रेजेंट करने के लिए। आपको डेफिनेटली फॉर्मेटिंग, थोड़ी सी डिजाइनिंग पार्ट पे अपने आप काम करना पड़ेगा, पर क्वालिटी ऑफ कंटेंट की अगर मैं बात करता हूं या रेफरेंसेस की बात करता हूं कि जो आपको केस लॉस चाहिए या आपको जो नोटिफिकेशन सर्कुलर्स चाहिए, वो सब कुछ आपके पास यहाँ पर अवेलेबल रहेगा। इन द रीचेकिंग चल रही है, ही प्रिपेयर दैट, पर रिकन्फर्मिंग फ्रॉम द डाटाबेस की सारी इंफॉर्मेशन प्रॉपर भी आ रही है। आपको इस तरह से पूरा का पूरा एंगेज भी रहेगा, और आप देखेंगे विद इन मिनट्स यू गेट द कंप्लीट आपको ड्राफ्ट रिप्लाई जो है बन के आ जाएगा। ये आपका ड्राफ्ट रिप्लाई भी बन के आ गया विद द प्रेयर्स, अगर आप लास्ट में देखेंगे जी। अगेन डॉक्यूमेंट समरी, जो आपका इशू 1 था, उसने इशू 1 को मैं ग्राउंड ऑफ डिफेंस दी है कि कैसे उसको डिफेंस करना है हमारे को इशू नंबर 1 को। देन एप्लीकेशन ऑफ द फैक्ट इन दिस केसेस में निकाल के जुडिशियल प्रेसिडेंस, जो आपको केस जजमेंट चाहिए थे, जजमेंट विद द साइटेशन थी आपको कि पेप्सिको इंडिया होल्डिंग प्राइवेट लिमिटेड वर्सेस दिस, टैक्सो ऑनलाइन का आपका जजमेंट है 1407। आपको कंप्लीट मिलेंगे, कंक्लूजन मिलेगी, आखिरी में प्रेयर मिलेगा। और सर जो भी जजमेंट इन्होंने यूज करे हैं इस मैटर में या उससे मिलते जुलते जजमेंट भी आपको सारे अवेलेबल रहेंगे। जिस जिस पार्ट ऑफ द सेक्शंस रेफर किया गया वो सेक्शन भी आपके लिए अवेलेबल रहेगा। लाइक एक जजमेंट की मैं बात करूं, जजमेंट का एक्सट्रैक्ट, वही पोर्शन एक्सट्रैक्ट किया है जो आपके इस मैटर में यूज हुआ, और ये फुल जजमेंट भी आप चाहते हैं तो ये फुल जजमेंट भी आपको अवेलेबल हो जाती है। डेफिनेटली इसको पीडीएफ फॉर्मेट चाहिए या आपको कंप्लीट उसमें चाहिए तो टैक्सो ऑनलाइन पे चाहिए, नहीं तो कंप्लीट जजमेंट फॉर यूर रेडी रेफरेंसेस के लिए यहाँ पर तैयार है जी। तो आप इस तरह से पूरा का पूरा प्रोडक्ट यूज कर सकते हैं। अगर मैं बात करता हूँ, इज वेरी सिंपल, लॉग इन करना बड़ा सिंपल है। आप अपना ईमेल डालिए, अपना पासवर्ड डाल के क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, आप गूगल या फेसबुक से क्रिएट कर सकते हैं। तो मेरी रिक्वेस्ट होगी, हम पिछले 4-5 साल से आपस में एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, एक दूसरे को कंट्रीब्यूट करते रहते हैं, सहयोग देते रहते हैं, गाइड करते रहते हैं। ये प्रोडक्ट आप बिंदास होकर यूज करिए। आपकी लिटिगेशंस में हाँ, प्रैक्टिसेस में बहुत काम आने वाला प्रोडक्ट है। और कोई भी बेफिक्र रहिए, आपका डाटा कहीं भी लीक नहीं होने वाला, ओपन सोर्स में नहीं जाने वाला। वी आर द एसओसी टू कंप्लायंट। हमने सर्ट सी, वीएपीटी ऑडिट, आरबीआई नॉर्म्स के हिसाब से डाटा का पूरा सिक्योर किया हुआ है। आपके किसी भी क्लाइंट का डाटा का डी भी बाहर नहीं जा सकता। दिस इज वी गिविंग द अश्योरेंस। हेलोनाइजेशन का मुझे बता रहे हैं कि कहीं भी हम वर्टिकल एआई इसमें यूज कर रहे हैं कि इसी कंटेंट में से आंसर निकालना है। कोई हॉरिजेंटल एआई की हम बातें नहीं कर रहे हैं कि आपको डाटा बाहर चलाना है। जब आप वर्टिकली कर रहे हैं तो कंटेंट भी आपका लिमिटेड रहेगा, कहीं भी वो आपको गलत तरह की इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं आएंगी, वो स्कोप भी खत्म हो जाता है। तो इसी के साथ मैं आज के स्पीकर हैं अनमोल जी और उपेंद्र सर का वेलकम भी करता हूं कि सर बहुत शॉर्ट नोटिस पे आप लोगों ने समय दिया, और क्योंकि लोग काफ़ी ज़्यादा मार्केट से फीडबैक आ रही थी कि सर एक जी स्टैट में अपील फाइल करने का सेशन करा दीजिए। तो एंड दिस ए गुड अपॉर्चुनिटी। आज 27 को हम से सेशन कर पा रहे हैं, और वो भी उपेंद्र सर के साथ कर पा रहे हैं, तो दिस ए ग्रेट ऑनर्स। हम सबके लिए बहुत सौभाग्य की बात है। नाउ ओवर टू अनमोल जी। अनमोल जी प्लीज, आप इस सब सेशन को आगे कैरी फॉरवर्ड करेंगे।
Thank you, Manoj sir. I hope with all the information that you have given, this product specifically is very, 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 very helpful for all of us. And the best part that I was noticing while you were deliberating is that it is taking the data not from the open source, which is unreliable and unauthenticated, but it has its own database created by the experts, which is a very good thing, I must say. Now, friends, let us start today's deliberation. So, I've been interested with the topic to discuss the basics of the GSTAT and the drafting part, that how to draft appeal and all those parts will be discussed by Upendra sir. So, I'll quickly share my screen. Kajal, if you can please allow me to share my screen. Okay. So, friends, I'm going to discuss the basics, the fundamentals of GSTAT, how it is constituted, what are the composition of the benches, how many benches are there, what are the jurisdiction. All these points will be taken up by me. If I lay down the fundamentals, the basics of the flow of litigation that follows in the GST. Initially, there is an audit or inquiry which is covered under the chapter 12, 13, and 14. Which talks about assessments, audit, or inquiry investigation. Pursuant to these audits and inquiries, the department usually discovers some discrepancy with which the assessee is not agreeing, which lead to issuance of a show cause notice and an adjudication order, which is covered under chapter 15. If the order is in my favor, the department has the power to file the appeal. If the order is in the department's favor, that is, it has confirmed the demand against the appellant, against the taxpayer, the taxpayer has the power to file the first appeal, the provisions of which are covered under chapter 18. Then, against the order of the first appellate authority, the assessee or the department, in the same manner that I discussed before, they have the power to file the appeal before GSTAT, the provisions of which are covered under chapter 19. So, against the order of the GSTAT, the assessee has the power to go to the High Court or Supreme Court. Department also has a similar power, which are the provisions mainly for High Court and Supreme Court are section 117 and 118. So, if I talk about the hierarchy, so if the demand is up to 20 lakhs, equivalent to or less than 20 lakhs, the power to adjudicate that demand is with the superintendent. If the demand is between 20 lakhs to 20 crores, I'm talking about the show cause notice here. So the deputy commissioner or assistant commissioner has the power to adjudicate that and pass the order. And if the demand is more than 2 crores, the additional commissioner, joint commissioner has the power to adjudicate that. If we talk about the first two adjudicating authorities, that is the superintendent and the deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, the appeal against those orders will lie. The first appeal under section 107 will lie to joint commissioner or additional commissioner appeals. And if we talk about the order passed by additional commissioner, joint commissioner, the first appeal under section 107 will lie to the commissioner appeals. Now, against the order of the first appellate authority, which is joint commissioner or additional commissioner appeals or commissioner appeals, the first appeal will lie to the tribunal. If I compare these powers with the pre-GST era, the service tax and the excise laws, there was no power. I'll stick to this slide only. There was no power that was granted to the superintendent. Instead, whatever the monetary limit was, the lowest level of the adjudicating authority was deputy commissioner or assistant commissioner. The second level was additional commissioner, joint commissioner. The third level was commissioner. So if I talk about filing the appeal against the order of the commissioner, I did not have the first appellate mechanism. I have to directly go to the tribunal if I talk about service tax and excise. But so in that manner, the assessee was deprived of the, I would say, those assessees whose monetary limit were falling in such a manner that the adjudication has to be done by the commissioner. They have to directly approach to the tribunal. So for the other assessees for small cases, small quantum of cases, the assessees would have two appellate mechanism. One is to approach the commission appeals, and the second was to approach the tribunal. But for those assessees whose demand is huge and the order is being passed by commissioner, they did not have that the first appellate mechanism. They have to directly approach the tribunal. So this was the fundamental difference between service tax and GST, or the excise and GST, which I would say is very commendable, which has been curbed in the GST law. So these are the resources from where we can read down the provisions regarding the GSTAT rules and procedures and everything. So in CGST Act, if we talk about, there are sections 109 to section 114 and section 116. CGST rules, we have section 110, 11, 111, 112 and 113, 113A and 116. GSTAT procedure rules are there, where there are rules 1 to 124, and then there are multiple notification orders, e-filing पोर्टल पे आपको यूजर मैनुअल्स मिल जाएंगे, जीएसटीएटी के मल्टीपल फॉर्म्स हैं, एंड देन देयर इज अ प्रिंसिपल बेंच जीएसटीएटी methodology and procedure rules 2025. If I talk about CGST Act, these are the some sections which talk about the subject matter is listed in front of that. You can go through these sections. If we talk about rules, these are the 6 rules and the subject against that are mentioned. GSTAT procedure rules, if I talk about, there are 124 rules which are there in total, which are bifurcated into multiple chapters. These are some of the notifications wherein the principal bench and state benches were established, the jurisdiction were defined, the time limit for filing appeal was notified, the powers were granted to the GSTAT to adjudicate anti-profiteering cases. And these are the kind of circulars and notifications which have been issued, which you can refer to in order to read about the GSTAT. These are some of the user manuals that are available on the GSTAT e-filing portal regarding registration, appeal filing, application filing, document uploading, refiling, application filing, cross-objection filing, cross-objection refiling. These are some of the forms. I'll discuss about these forms later in my PPT. Now talking about the constitution of GSTAT. So there is one principal bench which is located at New Delhi. This is one principal bench only. There are not multiple principal benches. The composition of the tribunal, this bench particularly, is one president, one judicial member, one technical member state, and one technical member central. So this is common between principal bench and state bench. State bench also has the same composition. If I talk about the exclusive jurisdiction means the cases which can only be heard by the principal bench. One is the National Anti-Profit Appellate Authority for Advance Ruling. So basically, if we talk about the provisions of the GST law, they have a mechanism that if two states, with respect to one taxpayer, two states have a different ruling on the same subject matter, the same taxpayer can approach to the National Appellate Authority for Advance Ruling, wherein they can decide that what is the final decision or ruling with respect to the same subject matter. So that power was not granted until now. Very recently, that power has been granted to the principal bench. So principal bench will function as the National Appellate Authority for Advance Ruling also. Then the principal bench has the power to adjudicate the anti-profiteering matters, which were earlier with National Anti-Profiteering Authority, which then merged with Competition Commission of India. Now that power has been entrusted with the principal bench. So if in case you have any case which is going on with respect to the anti-profiteering issue, so DGAP will submit a report to the principal bench of GSTAT, and principal bench of GSTAT will grant an opportunity of being heard to you to discuss that whether the DGAP's report is correct or not, and that basis the discussion and basis the submission that you will file, basis the hearing that you will do before the principal bench, they will finalize and pass the order that whether there is any anti-profiteering done by the taxpayer or not. Then a very important issue that we need to understand and we need to keep in our mind while filing the appeal is that all the issues which involve place of supply determination, those issues will lie before the principal bench. So even in those cases where there are five issues and one of the issues place of supply, even in those cases the appeal will lie before the principal bench. ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर पांच इश्यूज हैं, एक ही प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई का इशू है तो वो स्टेट बेंच पे जाएगा, नहीं साहब. अगर पांच में से एक इशू भी प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई का है, द अपील विल गो टू द प्रिंसिपल बेंच. If a same question of law is pending before two or more state benches, it will go to the principal bench. One such example will be discussed by Upendra sir in the later part of our presentation. If the issue involves is relating to section 14, which I believe is ISD provisions, section 14A and section 20 of CST Act, actionable claims and all those provisions, those appeals will lie solely at the principal bench, even if the assessee is located in Karnataka, Maharashtra, or any other state. Some examples wherein the POS issue will be there. If there is any dispute between two states that whose GST will be imposed, say Haryana or Maharashtra, the appeal will lie before the principal bench. The issues wherein the discrepancies relating to export versus intermediary, those appeals will lie before the principal bench. The issues wherein the dispute is whether there is an import of service liable to GST under reverse charge or it is an intermediary issue, those appeals will lie before the principal bench. The issue involving whether the levy will be CGST, SGST or IGST, whether the supply that I have made is an interstate supply or intrastate supply, those issues will be going to the principal bench, and over the time jurisprudence will be developed. I would like to tell you that on the third issue that is listed on this presentation, that is import versus intermediary, this one particular issue has also been decided by the principal bench very recently in against the taxpayer. So these are the cases which will go solely to the principal bench irrespective of the jurisdiction in which the assessee is registered. Then in the constitution of GSTAT, the second type of bench that is there are the state benches. In total, there are 31 state benches, 11 sitting benches and 5 circuit benches. The composition is same as at the principal bench. The jurisdiction of these benches are notified in notification number 5063, which is dated 26/11/2024. The vice presidents are also being notified recently. The senior most judicial member of that state bench will be the vice president. These are some of the examples of North India. Like Gurgaon bench के पास गुरुग्राम, चरखीदारी, दादरी, फरीदाबाद, झज्जर, महेंद्रगढ़, नूह, पलवल, पानीपत, रेवाड़ी, सोनीपत और रोहतक के जितने भी केसेस होंगे वो सब गुड़गांव बेंच के पास जाएंगे. और हिसार, अंबाला, भिवानी, फतेहाबाद, जींद, कैथल, करनाल, कुरुक्षेत्र, पंचकुला, सिरसा, यमुनानगर के जितने भी केसेस होंगे वो सिटिंग या सर्किट बेंच जो कि हिसार में है वहां पे लाई करेंगे. सिमिलरली द केस विद JNK, जम्मू और श्रीनगर दो बेंचेस हैं, सबकी जुरिस्डिक्शन डिफाइंड है. सो व्हेनेवर यू आर फाइलिंग your appeal, it is very important that you go through this notification of November 2024 in order to understand कि मेरी अपील कहाँ लाई करेगी, किस स्टेट में लाई करेगी, किस बेंच पे लाई करेगी. What are the cases to be heard by GSTAT? So GSTAT has the power to, you can file an appeal against the order of the first appellate authority like I discussed earlier. You have the power to file the appeal against the orders passed by the revisional authority under section 108 before the GSTAT. Then the as I mentioned, एंटी प्रॉफिटेरिंग अथॉरिटीज का एग्जामिनेशन और एडजुडिकेशन GSTAT करेगा. नए एप्लीकेशन 1 अप्रैल 2025 के बाद नहीं आएंगे. नेशनल अपीलेट अथॉरिटी फॉर एडवांस रूलिंग के भी जो इश्यूज हैं दैट विल बी हर्ड बाय GSTAT. सो दीज 4 आर द प्रिंसिपल इश्यूज दैट विल बी हर्ड बाय GSTAT. Appeal against order passed by the GSTAT, this is very important thing. I see that many of the people are not discussing these issues. We have to understand that against the order of GSTAT, where will my appeal lie? So if the order has been passed by state benches, the appeal will lie before the High Court only if there is any question of law involved in that. And if the order has been passed by principal bench, the appeal shall lie directly before the Supreme Court. Type of benches and cases allocations. There is a single member bench which comprises of one judge only. It can be either technical member, it can be judicial member, it can be at the principal bench, it can be at the state benches depending upon the number of cases which falls under the jurisdiction of single member bench. What will be the allocation? 50 लाख या 50 लाख से कम वाले जो केसेस हैं जिनमें टैक्स या ITC या फाइन फी पेनल्टी की इन्वॉल्वमेंट 50 लाख से कम है, those cases will go to the single member bench. Or the cases which does not involve and sorry, the word used is and, it is not or. सो जहां पे क्वेश्चन ऑफ लॉ नहीं होगा और 50 लाख से कम होगा, दोज केसेस विल गो टू द सिंगल मेंबर बेंच. अगर क्वेश्चन ऑफ लॉ है और डिमांड 50 लाख से कम है, इट विल नॉट गो टू द सिंगल मेंबर बेंच. या वाइस वर्सा कि डिमांड 50 लाख रुपए से ज्यादा की है और क्वेश्चन ऑफ लॉ इन्वॉल्व है, those will not go to the single member bench. Exception है if the same, for the same assessee, for the same issue, for the different period, the issue has already been decided, then it can go to the single member bench even if it is involves any question of law, because then it is simply following the jurisprudence. So then it can go to the single member bench. Divisional bench की हम बात करें, दो जजेस होंगे, एक जुडिशियल मेंबर, एक टेक्निकल मेंबर. जो टेक्निकल मेंबर होंगे, he can be of central or he can be of the state depending upon the quorum. प्रिंसिपल बेंच, स्टेट बेंच दोनों जगह पे हो सकते हैं. जो भी केसेस सिंगल मेंबर बेंच पे नहीं फॉल करेंगे, ऑल दोज केसेस विल फॉल बिफोर द डिविजनल बेंच. So after we discuss divisional bench and single member bench, there is a three member bench also. So in cases where the both the members, like there are two members, member A, member B sitting, and member A is saying that this particular service which is under dispute is taxable, and member B is saying it is not taxable. So if there is any difference of opinion, they can refer the issue to the third member. So in that case, if the issue pertains to state benches, it has to be the matter has to be referred to the third member of the state bench. And if that third member of the state bench is not appointed or they are not available, it can be referred to any other member of any other state bench. और अगर प्रिंसिपल बेंच में कंफ्लिक्टिंग व्यूज आते हैं तो प्रिंसिपल बेंच के थर्ड मेंबर को वो रेफर करा जा सकता है. इफ द प्रिंसिपल मेंबर्स थर्ड मेंबर इज नॉट अवेलेबल, इट कैन बी रेफर टू एनी अदर मेंबर ऑफ एनी अदर स्टेट. लार्जर बेंच, अगर दो जजमेंट्स कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी हैं, एक जजमेंट बोलती है कि सीए की सर्विस टैक्सेबल है, दूसरी जजमेंट बोलती है सीए की सर्विस टैक्सेबल नहीं है, एग्जम्प्ट है, तो उस केस में एक लार्जर बेंच कॉन्स्टिट्यूट होगी. मैटर रेफर किया जाएगा एक लार्जर बेंच के पास. ये कब किया जाएगा? जब एक तीसरा केस आएगा. वो तीसरे असेसी जब वो पॉइंट आउट करेगा बेंच को कि सर देयर इज अ जजमेंट व्हिच सेज सीए सर्विस इज टैक्सेबल, देयर इज अ जजमेंट व्हिच सेज सीए सर्विस इज नॉट टैक्सेबल, देन in that third case, the bench can refer the matter to the president to constitute a larger bench and resolve the conflict. The president has the power to transfer cases from one bench to another by a general or special order. तो ऐसा नहीं है आपने मुंबई में फाइल किया तो मुंबई में ही सुना जाएगा. President has that power to transfer it to Delhi bench if he deems fit. Members का भी ट्रांसफर हो सकता है, लेकिन technical member state will be transferred within the same state only. What is the procedure before GSTAT? What all can be filed before GSTAT? From an SSC point of view, either the appeal can be filed by the SSC or the department, or rectification of error application can be filed, restoration of appeal application can be filed, condonation of delay application can be filed, application for urgent listing can be filed, and a stay application can be filed. Though I believe the law says stay application, but since section 1128 in unambiguous terms says that no appeal can be filed unless it is accompanied with the pre-deposit. So law says stay application can be filed, but it is bound to be rejected. What is the manner? What are the forms available? How to file the appeal before the GSTAT? So if the appeal has to be filed by the taxpayer, it has to be filed in form APL 05. It has to be filed electronically on the GSTAT e-filing portal. It is separate from the gst.gov.in where you file the first appeal or the reply to SCN, or you file a reply to the notices issued by the department. There is a separate portal. जीएसटी एपीएल 05 में आप अपील फाइल करेंगे, और अगर डिपार्टमेंट को अपील फाइल करना है तो जीएसटी एपीएल 07 में जो है वो अपील फाइल होगी. एंड आफ्टर द अपील इज फाइल्ड, अ प्रोविजनल एक्नॉलेजमेंट विच इज एन ऑटो एक्नॉलेजमेंट विल बी जनरेटेड immediately after filing in part A of form APL 02A, but filing is not complete at this stage. If the appeal order is uploaded on the GSTAT portal, and the other scenario is where appeal order is not uploaded. So we will discuss in the scenario where appeal order is uploaded on the GST portal. In that case, you need not do anything. The registry will see that whether your appeal filing is correct, whether there is no defect. If there is any defect, they will intimate it to you. And if after removal of all the defects, the final acknowledgement in part B of form APL 02A will be generated and it will be issued. And your date of filing appeal will be considered as date of provisional acknowledgement. But in cases where appeal order is not uploaded on the GST portal, in those cases a self-certified copy of appeal order has to be submitted or uploaded within 7 days. If it is submitted within 7 days after removal of defect, date of filing of appeal will be the date of provisional acknowledgement, which was auto generated. But if the appeal order, self-certified copy of the appeal order is not uploaded within 7 days, in that case, after removal of defect, the appeal filing date will be the date of final acknowledgement. So it is very important to understand from this particular slide that if the appeal order is not uploaded on the GSTAT portal, you have to upload self-certified copy within 7 days. Otherwise, your appeal will be considered as time barred, may be considered as a time barred, because then the date of filing of appeal will be after removal of defect, not the provisional acknowledgement that was generated immediately after filing the appeal on the electronic portal. Once appeal is filed, cross objections can be filed by either party in form APL 06. सेल्फ सर्टिफाइड कॉपी क्या होता है, वो डिफाइंड है जीस्टैट प्रोसीजर रूल्स 2025 के रूल 2F में, जहां पे लिखा हुआ है ओरिजिनल कॉपी ऑफ द ऑर्डर रिसीव्ड और द कॉपी ऑफ द ऑर्डर ऑथेंटिकेटेड बाय द डिपार्टमेंट और द कॉपी ऑफ द ऑर्डर ऑथेंटिकेटेड बाय द ऑथोराइज्ड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव. डिफेक्ट सेम प्रोसीजर दैट इज बीइंग करेंटली फॉलोड इन सीस्टैट. आपको अपॉर्चुनिटी दी जाएगी रेक्टिफाई करने की. अगर आप नहीं रेक्टिफाई करते हैं, मैटर विल बी प्लेस्ड बिफोर द रजिस्ट्रार. अगर रजिस्ट्रार के टाइम पे भी आप रेक्टिफाई नहीं करते हैं, इट विल बी प्लेस्ड बिफोर द बेंच, जो या तो आपकी अपील एक्सेप्ट करेगी या रिजेक्ट कर देगी. What is the time limit before GSTAT? As a general rule, you have 3 months to file the appeal before the GSTAT. COD, condonation of delay, is maximum 3 months only. We have to understand that within 6 months the appeal has to be filed. Otherwise, it will be time barred. If the appeal is being filed after 3 months, you have to file the appeal with an application seeking condonation of delay. For the department, the time period is 6 months and delay can be maximum of 3 months. Beyond that, department appeal will not be entertained. For cross objections, from the date of receiving the copy of the appeal filed by department or the taxpayer within 45 days, cross objection has to be filed. Comparison, if we do a comparison from the erstwhile law, there is a major change in GSTAT as compared to CSTAT. In CSTAT, there is no time limit for COD. So if I file the appeal after 3 months, say I file the appeal after 5 years, the tribunal can currently, I'm talking about CSTAT, the CSTAT has the power to see if there is a reasonable sufficient cause for delay in filing, and they can condone even for a delay of 5 years. But in GSTAT, it has been capped at 3 months. So beyond 3 months, GSTAT even does not have the power to condone the delay. लॉ बोलता है 1 मई 2026 से पहले, नोटिफिकेशन आई हुई है 1 मई 2026 से पहले जितनी भी अपील्स है 7-8 साल की, सबकी लास्ट डेट 31 जुलाई 2026 है. और जितनी भी ऑर्डर्स आपको, अपील के ऑर्डर्स आपको 1 मई 2026 के बाद मिलेंगे, उसकी नॉर्मल पीरियड 3 मंथ्स या 6 मंथ्स का शुरू होएगा. While computing the time limit, I have to exclude 2 things. One, जिस दिन वो पीरियड स्टार्ट हो रहा है, तो जिस दिन आपको ऑर्डर मिला उस वो एक्सक्लूड होएगा और उसके नेक्स्ट डे से 3 महीने चालू होंगे. और अगर लास्ट डे या सक्सीडिंग डे एक ऐसे दिन पे एंड हो रहा है जिस दिन जीस्टैट का ऑफिस क्लोज्ड है, मतलब वो सैटरडे संडे को एंड हो रहा है या इंडिपेंडेंस डे पे एंड हो रहा है या कोई गेजेटेड हॉलीडे पे एंड हो रहा है, तो उसका इमीडिएटली नेक्स्ट डे जो है वो आपका नॉर्मल टाइम पीरियड माना जाएगा. Mandatory pre-deposit 100% along with interest and penalty, whatever the amount has been admitted, and whatever is the remaining 10% subject to a maximum of 40 was the earlier limit, now it is 25 CR. And अगर सिर्फ penalty की डिमांड है तो 10% of the penalty under dispute has to be paid as a pre-deposit as per the provision which has been recently notified from 1st of October 2025. क्या फीस है फाइलिंग अपील फाइल करने की GSTAT के आगे? 1 लाख से ज्यादा की, फॉर एवरी 1 लाख द फी इज 1000 रुपीज. तो अगर 5 लाख की डिमांड है तो 5000 रुपए, और 5 लाख से ऊपर मैक्सिमम कैपिंग जो है वो 25,000 रुपए की है, मिनिमम कैपिंग 5000 रुपए की है. तो हर 1 लाख रुपए पे 1,000 रुपए की आपकी जो है वो फीस है. ITC अगर रिफंड की मैं बात करूं तो देयर इज नो कैपिंग, नो फी दैट यू हैव टू फाइल to pay while filing the appeal. Rectification of error की application अगर आप फाइल करते हैं, no fee you have to pay. Inspection of records या interlocutory application अगर आप कोई फाइल करते हैं तो 5,000 रुपए आपको जो है डिमांड ड्राफ्ट या आपको ऑनलाइन फी जो है पे करनी पड़ेगी. There is a big change that has been brought under GSTAT, which was not there earlier in the CSTAT, कि only 3 adjournments can be granted, no more than 3 adjournments to a party can be granted. And पहले क्या होता था, आप 10-10, 15-15 एडजॉर्नमेंट्स लेते थे, 2-2 साल केस चलता था CSTAT में, ट्रिब्यूनल में. बट अब GSTAT में आप 3 से ज्यादा नहीं ले सकते हैं. पुराने रिजीम से मैंने कंपैरिजन किया. इंटरलोक्यूटरी एप्लीकेशन GSTAT फॉर्म 1 फॉर्म में जाती है, एक एफिडेविट के साथ जाएगी. स्टे, डायरेक्शन, रेक्टिफिकेशन इन ऑर्डर, कॉन्डोनेशन ऑफ डिले, अर्ली हियरिंग, एग्जम्पशन किसी भी पर्पस के लिए इंटरलोक्यूटरी एप्लीकेशन यू हैव टू फाइल। रेक्टिफिकेशन ऑफ मिस्टेक खुद भी कर सकता है ट्रिब्यूनल, या फिर आप एक एप्लीकेशन फाइल कर सकते हैं जीस्टैट फॉर्म 1 में, अगेन विद इन 1 मंथ फ्रॉम द डेट ऑफ द ऑर्डर, फाइनल ऑर्डर। और टाइम एडिशनल ग्राउंड, सो एज अ जनरल रूल, जो भी आपने अपील मेमो में ग्राउंड्स लिए हैं दैट कैन ओनली बी कंटेस्टेड, दैट कैन ओनली बी आर्ग्यूड इन फ्रंट ऑफ द जीस्टैट। नो फर्दर ग्राउंड कैन बी एडेड without the prior permission of the GSTAT. If you want to add a ground, you have to file a miscellaneous application or interlocutory application to add a ground, and only after the permission of the GSTAT you can add that ground. Additional evidence, as a general rule, it is not allowed to be presented before the GSTAT, but it can be exception is there if the GSTAT is satisfied कि नीचे आपको वो करने नहीं दिया गया था, या एडजुडिकेटिंग अथॉरिटी या अपीलेट अथॉरिटी ने आपको मौका नहीं दिया था एडिशनल एविडेंस प्रोड्यूस करने का। अर्जेंट लिस्टिंग का एक कंसेप्ट नया आया है जो सी स्टैट में नहीं था, जी स्टैट में आया है। अगर आपकी फाइलिंग कंप्लीट हो चुकी है तो जो भी 12 बजे से पहले आपने मैटर फाइल किया है वो अगर आप अर्जेंट बताते हैं रजिस्ट्री को तो इमीडिएटली नेक्स्ट डे लिस्ट हो जाएगा। और अगर 12 बजे से 3 बजे के बीच में आपने कोई फाइल किया है तो बेंच की परमिशन से वो नेक्स्ट डे लिस्ट हो सकता है। क्या क्या एग्जांपल है, जैसे आपका जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन कैंसिल हो गया और आपको अर्जेंटली उसको रिस्टोर कराना है तो यू कैन मूव एन एप्लीकेशन फॉर अर्जेंट लिस्टिंग। रेकरिंग नेचर है कोई रिफंड का या डिमांड का जो आपको लगता है कि इमीडिएटली बार 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 आएगा तो आप अर्जेंट लिस्टिंग की रिक्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। हाई वैल्यू ऑफ डिमांड है तो आप अर्जेंट लिस्टिंग की रिक्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। ऑर्डर ऑफ सीजर है जो आपको रिलीज कराना है, पेरिशेबल नेचर का है तो आप रिक्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। कॉन्फिस्केशन के आप और डिटेंशन के केस में आप रिक्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। अपील आप विड्रॉ कर सकते हैं एपीएल 05W और एपीएल 07W फॉर्म में। ये इंपॉर्टेंट है सर, अगर एक शोकोज नोटिस है, एक ही ऑर्डर है और एक ही अपीलेट ऑर्डर है तो जीस्टैट में एक ही अपील जाएगी। अगर 3 शोकोज नोटिस है लेकिन कॉमन ऑर्डर पास हुआ है और कॉमन अपीलेट ऑर्डर पास हुआ है तो एक ही अपील जीस्टैट में जाएगी। 3 शोकोज नोटिस है, 3 ऑर्डर पास हुए हैं, एक ही कॉमन अपीलेट ऑर्डर पास हुआ है तो 3 अपील जाएंगी। तो अगर इफ यू कैन सी फ्रॉम दिस डायग्राम, जितने भी नंबर ऑफ ऑर्डर्स ऑर्डर इन ओरिजिनल द एडजुडिकेशन ऑर्डर्स जितने भी होंगे उतनी ही अपील जीस्टैट में जाएंगी। अगर जीस्टैट में कोई एसएससी अपीयर नहीं होता तो जीस्टैट हैज द पावर टू डिसमिस द अपील फॉर डिफॉल्ट ऑफ नॉन अपीयरेंस। इफ द एसएससी वांट्स दे कैन फाइल अ रेस्टोरेशन ऑफ अपील विद सफिशिएंट कॉज कि वो क्यों नहीं अपीयर होते जीस्टैट के आगे, एंड जीस्टैट मे अलाउ द रिस्टोरेशन। मॉनेटरी लिमिट डिपार्टमेंट की इफ वी टॉक अबाउट, जीस्टैट पे जाने की 20 लाख की है। 20 लाख से नीचे का अगर केस है तो डिपार्टमेंट इज नॉट परमिटेड टू फाइल एन अपील बिफोर द जीस्टैट। सिमिलरली हाई कोर्ट की 1 करोड़ और सुप्रीम कोर्ट की 2 करोड़ है। कैसे कैलकुलेट करनी है लिमिट, मैं थोड़ा सा आगे चलता हूं सर क्योंकि उपेंद्र सर को भी डिस्कस करना है एंड टाइम इज रनिंग शॉर्ट। ये आपको पीपीटी मिल जाएगी, यू कैन डिस्कस, यू कैन सी। So friends, that was all from my side where I wanted to lay down some foundational facts related to GSTAT. Now I would request Upendra sir to kindly enlighten us regarding the uh, appeal filing mechanism, I would say. So a quick intro of Upendra sir. Upendra sir is a 1990 batch IRS. Just a minute. So Upendra sir is a 1990 batch IRS and he has retired as Chief Commissioner of CGST Panchkula Zone. Upendra sir holds multiple professional qualifications being a chartered accountant, cost accountant, company secretary and law graduate. During his tenure of 33 years working in indirect taxes, sir has led introduction of GST in the country in July 17, and for his efforts he has been honored with Prime Minister's Award for Excellence in Public Administration and Presidential Award of Appreciation Certificate for Distinguished Record of Service. We are very honored to have sir's presence with us. So over to you, sir, to take it forward, please, sir.
Thank you, Anmolji. First of all, I would like to thank Taxo to give me this opportunity to speak to the participants. So Anmolji has laid down the basic contour of the GST filing of appeals in GSTAT. I would try to cover certain important points for drafting of appeal which are to be filed in the GSTAT. So first and foremost is most important thing is that one should carry out the preliminary checks before the drafting of appeal. That is, identify which is the correct GSTAT bench whether it is principal bench or whether it is state bench. So Anmolji has mentioned in his presentation that certain appeals can be filed only before the principal bench of the GSTAT, like if the one of the issues is determination of place of supply or OIDAR service or ISD mechanism, those appeals can be filed before the principal bench. So if we identify and then remaining appeals are to be filed according to the territorial jurisdiction of the principal noticee in the appellate order which is being appealed against, and then accordingly the appeal would be filed before the respective state bench. Only 2 days back, one circular has been issued, circular number 256, as to how the appeals are to be filed in an order which has been passed by common adjudicating authority in cases which have been Shoka notice has been issued by DGGI. So I would discuss a little later about those cases. Then we have to verify the last date to file appeal. So, like Anmolji has mentioned, in all those cases where the order sought to be appealed against has been communicated before first of uh, before first of uh, 1st of May, the last date is 31st July, and department can file appeal up to 31st July in all those cases where the order sought to be appealed against was passed before 1st of February 2026. Is 31st July the last date to file the appeal? That is a question. The answer is that recently the Honorable President of the GSTAT has come out with a facilitative provision, I would say, where it has been mentioned that if for some reason you are not able to file appeal before 31st July, you can generate a token, and that token would be valid for 2 months. So that means if for some reason in those cases where the order sought to be appealed against was passed before 1st May and the last date for which is 31st July, if for some reason you are not able to file the appeal, a token should definitely be generated before that date, and within next 2 months the appeal can be filed. Then one should verify with the pre-deposit requirements. So what is the pre-deposit requirement for filing the appeal? If you see section 112 subsection 8, it says that in addition to whatever tax has been, whatever pre-deposit was made before, while filing the appeal before the first appellate authority, a additional 10% pre-deposit has to be made. So that means if, for example, the Shoka notice was issued for 10 lakhs, the demand was confirmed for 10 lakhs. So when the first appeal was filed before the Joint Additional Commissioner appeals, all the Commissioner appeals on the center side, definitely 1 lakh rupees pre-deposit would have been made. Now suppose that appellate authority has reduced the demand from 10 lakhs to 40 lakhs. So according to 112.8, what is the amount of pre-deposit which has to be made? 10% of the amount in dispute in addition to the pre-deposit already made. So is it 4 lakhs? Because 10% of the disputed amount is 4 lakhs. But I had already deposited and pre-deposit of 1 lakh. Sorry, 4 lakhs 40,000 is supposed to be deposited. But I had already deposited 1 lakh rupees while filing the first appeal. So am I required to deposit further 40,000? Or because my already deposited pre-deposit amount is more than 40,000, I need not deposit any further amount. The law says that you have to deposit further amount of 40,000 rupees. But recently, the Cuttack bench of GSTAT in the case of Manoranjan Das, in its order dated 8th July 2026, has ruled that no further deposit in our example would be made because the amount of pre-deposit which has already been made is more than the amount of pre-deposit required for filing the appeal. This view was already taken by Jharkhand High Court earlier in February 2026 in the case of Ashirwad Food Industries. And in fact, the Cuttack branch has followed that decision only. Another issue which I would like to flag with respect to pre-deposit is that can I file the appeal without pre-deposit and I can make the pre-deposit just before my appeal is taken up for by the bench? The answer is a big no. Unlike in GSTAT, the Central Excise and Service Tax provisions, or for that matter, customs provision, talks about that no appeal should be entertained without the pre-deposit. But the language used in section 112 in the CGST Act is that no appeal shall be filed without the pre-deposit. So the pre-deposit requirement has to be completed while filing the appeal. One cannot take a call that I will make the pre-deposit only when my appeal is taken up, and by that time, up till that time, I can file the appeal. Then our appeal, with if we file without making the pre-deposit right at the time of filing appeal, is probably liable to be rejected. So one should not take chance, and the pre-deposit requirements should be fulfilled at the time of filing of appeal. The quantum of pre-deposit I have discussed. Please keep in mind the Cuttack bench decision of the Honorable GSTAT. Then what next? So first and foremost, my appeal should be divided into many parts. First should be the statement of facts. Then next should be the summary of grounds. The grounds can be technical, can be non-merit grounds, and it can be grounds on merit. Then the prayer which I want to, the relief which I want to seek from the Honorable Tribunal. So the statement of fact is the foundation of the appeal according to me, and the fact should be narrated chronologically. Only facts should be stated. No legal argument should be made in this part of the appeal, because we should try to list all the facts so that we bring all the facts of the case at one place without burdening them with the legal arguments. And all the important events should be supported by the relevant annexures. So the document supporting the relevant fact should be supported by relevant annexure. For example, when the summon was issued, I should enclose a copy. What reply I mentioned, brief fact, what reply I had mentioned, the detailed letter can be enclosed as the annexure, and so on. So what is the importance of this statement of facts? That the members of the Honorable Tribunal would understand what is the dispute which is involved in this case before we turn to the legal grounds. So I have seen that in many cases the statement of facts is not given due importance, which at times prove fatal, because the honorable members may not be able to appreciate the issue involved in the absence of statement of facts. So after the statement of facts, the next is that I should make a table containing what are my summary of the grounds which I intend to take. So in that I must list down the headings of each of the ground, whether technical ground, whether non-merit ground, whether merit ground. And at the end of each of the ground, I should conclude that ground by narrating the gist of the ground which I have taken in each of the ground. So what could be the technical ground? One ground could be about jurisdiction, that whether the officer who has issued the show cause notice, or the one who has passed the adjudication order, or the one who has passed the appellate order, which is now being contested before the Honorable GSTAT, whether he was having due jurisdiction. For example, Anmolji has mentioned the monetary limits in his presentation. So 20 lakh rupees was the limit up to which the superintendent can pass the order, and 2 crores was the limit which the ACDC can pass the order. Now, if for example, the Shoka notice was issued for 2.5 crore rupees, but yet it has been decided by ACDC, then I must raise this issue that he was not having jurisdiction. Another jurisdiction issue is territorial jurisdiction. Friends, you may be aware that the notification number 3 of 2017 gives the territorial jurisdiction to various class of officers, whether the executive commissioners, all the appellate authorities, and primarily the jurisdiction is territorial linked. Territorial linked meaning the jurisdiction in which the principal place of business of the noticee falls. Ordinarily, that is the territorial jurisdiction. Except in case of DGGI cases, some officers have been given at the level of GSTAT, the All India jurisdiction, I think in table 5 of the notification, of the said notification, wherein those officers can decide the cases. For example, a Shoka notice has been issued by DGGI, and the taxpayers to whom the Shoka notice has been issued, their principal place of business falls in, let us say, Faridabad, in Noida, and let us say in Mumbai. So ordinarily speaking, there should be 3 different Shoka notices, or 1 Shoka notices, 3 Shoka notices. If the DGGI has made this case, one Shoka notice would be issued, making all the 3 GSTs noticee in the said Shoka notice. Now, who will decide the case? If you see table 5 of this notification, and let us say the highest demand in the Shoka notice pertains to the taxpayer located in Faridabad. So according to that notification, that with the corresponding circular, it is the Joint Additional Commissioner posted in Faridabad Commissionerate of Panchkula Zone who will pass the order in respect of all the 3 taxpayers. Although the territorial jurisdiction of the taxpayer located in Noida is under Noida Commissioner, and similarly for the taxpayer located in Mumbai is with the Mumbai Commissioner. But the exception has been carved out. Now, where the appeal would be filed against this order before the first appellate authority and the second appellate authority, meaning GSTAT, I would discuss this a little later with reference to circular number 250 and 256. 256 has been issued on 21st July only, current year, and circular number 250 was issued earlier. So I have to see the jurisdiction part. Then I should see the limitation part, whether the order in original was filed according to the time limits laid down under the respective notification, which is linked to the last date of filing of annual return. There is no time limit for passing appellate order, the first appellate order on the joint additional or the commissioner appeals. Whether the principle of natural justice has been followed, there are enough number of decisions that if the natural justice PNJ has been violated, the Shoka notice as well as the orders are bad in law. So I must raise this ground of the violation of the principle of natural justice. Then the invalidity of Shoka notice or order in original or order in appeal. These documents may be contested as invalid on various grounds. Like some of the ground proceedings have been initiated both by the center and the state or by multiple authorities of the center. So Armor Securities decision is one of the cases, one of the landmark cases, I would say, in which the decision has been laid down by the Honorable Apex Court, wherein it has been shared that the parallel proceedings cannot be initiated. So there can be n number of grounds basis which the show cause notice can be, all the order in original or order in original can be contested as invalid. So I must take those. Yes. Then procedural violations can be another ground. For example, DRC 01A was not issued to me. Now Rule 142 says that earlier it was shall, now it is may. So can, after the words may has been replaced, the shall has been replaced with the word may, is it obligatory to issue DRC 01A? One can take the argument that if DRC 01A is not issued, then I cannot avail the benefit of 74(8), where I can pay the tax, I can pay the interest and 15% of penalty before issuing the show cause notice itself. So had DRC 01A was issued, I would have availed that facility. So even after the word shall has been replaced with may, still DRC 1A issuance was mandatory, and in the absence of which the show cause notice is invalid. So this is one of the examples where I can argue that the show cause notice was invalid. Then grounds on merit. So this is very important. I must take all the grounds on merit, duly supported with the statutory provisions, relevant notifications, relevant circulars. And when I am quoting circulars, I must quote the Honorable Supreme Court decisions in Ranade Nutrients and one or more, two more decisions, wherein it has been mentioned that the circulars issued by the revenue are binding on the revenue authorities. If they have not followed those circulars and issued the show cause notice or passed the order in original or order in appeal, overlooking the circular, that's those orders or show cause notice are invalid. The revenue authorities are bound by the bound by such by such circulars, all the instructions. Then one must take the judicial precedents. Now one can argue that where are the judicial precedents in GST? Because GST is new law, there are hardly any judicial precedents, or the jurisprudence has hardly been developed in the GST law. Can the jurisprudence which has evolved under the central excise law or the service tax law, or for that matter the VAT laws, can it be used while drafting the appeal, or can it be taken as a ground while drafting the appeal for honorable before the honorable GSTAT? My answer would be yes, you can use, provided the law earlier and the law now is same. For example, in case of intermediary service, if you compare the law relating to intermediary under the service tax law and the law relating to intermediary under the GST law, it is same. It is similarly worded. So the provisions which are there, the judicial precedent which were rendered in the context of intermediary under the erstwhile law can very well be used under the GST law. But we must take care that I should make a table in my appeal that this was the provision relating to intermediary under the earlier law, and this is the provision under the current law. The provisions are perimetria, the language used is broadly similar, the intention of law is same. So therefore, the decisions which have been rendered in the context of service tax law would be equally applicable under the GST law also. So we must do the research. First, we should see whether the law is same. Another example which I can say is the place of provision of service rules. So we have section 12 and 13 of the IGST Act determine the place of supply under the GST regime, and in the service tax law we were having the place of provision of service rules. If you see, the provisions are almost identical. There are some changes. So wherever the provisions are identical under the place of provision of service rules and the place of supply, the jurisprudence evolved under the service tax law can very well be used under the GST law also. Then I must record the rebuttal of each and every finding of the learned first appellate authority in my appeal. Because unless and until I rebut those, I will not be, my appeal would not be regarded as a good appeal. Similarly, the next issue is, can I take all the grounds which have not been taken earlier while replying to the show cause notice or while filing the first appeal? The answer is yes. I must take and I can take all the possible grounds, even though I might not have taken those grounds while replying to the show cause notice or while filing the first appeal. But the catch is that I must include all the grounds in my appeal. But if I am not able, if I miss some ground while filing my appeal, it will be difficult to take additional grounds while during the personal hearing, because Rule 31 of the GSTAT procedural rules clearly says that no new additional ground can be discussed as by the appellant during the hearing. So then I will have to file an interlocutory application requesting permission of the GSTAT to take the additional ground which I have failed to include in my appeal. I must ensure that I should enclose all the annexures which I have referred to in my appeal. Because if I just write and I don't enclose the annexures in my appeal, those grounds would be, the Honorable GSTAT members may choose to ignore those grounds in the absence of the documentary evidence which will not be there in the appeal. So every factual assertion which I make, every judicial precedent which I take, the gist of the judicial precedent I must quote in my appeal. Every factual assertion which I make, it should be duly supported with the documentary evidence in the appeal. What could be the documentary evidence for my factual assertions? It can be in the form of agreements, it can be in the form of invoices, it can be in the form of reconciliation. For example, if there is a ground in my appeal about I am defending the difference between 2A and 3B, so I must make the assertions, make the submissions, and duly enclose the reconciliation in my along with my appeal. It can be in the form of CA certificate, it can be in the form of circulars, notifications, and so on. So, and you may be aware, friends, that CA certificate are regarded as a what should I say, as a valid certificate to prove my bona fide. So if I make some assertions with respect to the accounts, with respect to the entries, with respect to the payments made to the supplier, and if they are duly certified by a CA certificate, then it will carry its own weight. I must do the indexing properly. The annexure should be numbered sequentially so that the members on the bench can see all the documents sequentially. The last thing in the appeal is my request for prayer. So I must end the appeal first by giving the conclusion of all the grounds which I have taken, and at the end I should my appeal should end with what is the relief which I am seeking from Honorable GSTAT. So I must list the Honorable GSTAT. So Anmolji has already mentioned that if there are multiple orders in original in one order in appeal, we have to file as many appeals as the number of order in original. So what is order in original? The order in original is DRC 7. So because there can be one order in original for multiple years, let us say 4-5 years. So one DRC 7 is issued for each order in original. So although there is one order in original, because there are multiple DRC 7s which are issued, so it amounts to multiple order in original because it will have the reference number, and the appeal in GSTAT is filed with reference to the each of the reference number of the order in original. So if there is one order in original having, let us say, 5 DRC 7 against which one order in appeal has been issued, I have to file 5 appeals.